Hi all, this is Skate, and we are in the Centurion 7.1, which has just got its second gun in update 4.7. You now have the choice between a gun which fires heat for premium ammunition, or you have a gun which fires HESH as premium ammunition. Now, for those who want reliability in their damage, heat may be the best shout. It's going to be a little bit more consistent if you're conscious on using the HESH, or if you're not confident on the armor layout of the enemies. That being said, if you are confident with the armor layout of the targets you are shooting at, and you do know what points to use HESH and what not to, well, you want the gun with HESH as premium. Obviously we do have hit skins, but sometimes you don't have the choice of being able to wait, angle, so on and so forth. You've got to make quick snapshots, and those quick snapshots can make all the difference. For me, it's the HESH gun all the way, so I was very, very happy when Wargaming said they were bringing this back. And the reason I was so happy with that is because I love the Centurion 7.1. This tank is fantastic, but it's been butchered over the updates, let's be fair. They removed our HESH, they dropped the rate of fire, they gave us heat. There's been a lot of changes with this tank, but with this gun back, I personally think it's got some of its former glory back, and I'm very, very happy to be taking it out again. I did take it out, obviously, when it had the heat as the gun. I just missed the HESH so much, and now the HESH is back. I am loving playing this tank again. There are drawbacks though. Obviously it's not the fastest in terms of top speed. It doesn't have a very well armoured hull. And until recently it had the worst DPM at tier 9 in terms of medium tanks with 2,208. But the WZ-120 with the 122mm gun is now in the game, which is now joint worst. Add your rammer to that, both of them go up to 2,375. Except the APCR standard on this thing has 255mm of penetration. The WZ-120 with the 122mm has 220mm of penetration. The HESH on this gun has 210mm of penetration, which is 10 less than the stock normal ammo on the WZ-120. And if you don't penetrate, you're going to do some damage. And it has more alpha than the WZ-120 stock ammo. This thing with the HESH has 440 alpha with that 210mm of penetration. Some would say run the calibrated shells, so you go up to 231mm of penetration on the HESH, but personally, I would rather the rammer. I've tried it with both. For me, it's the rammer all the way. And I know some people are going to disagree in the comments. But horses for courses, personal preference and all that. I just personally would rather the rammer. I mean, 9.5 seconds without the rammer on the reload. Yeah, it's a bit too much for a medium tank. In exchange, you're getting an extra few millimeters of penetration on the HESH. I would genuinely much prefer having my reload down on 8.8. So I mentioned the hull as well, which is why these things have to be completely hull down to be formidable. Hull's not the greatest. Got good traverse. Genuinely, I think this is a great tank, by the way. But 10 degrees of gun depression with a very, very troll gun mantlet. Above the gun mantlet is weak. But when you are using the full 10 degrees of gun depression, that area above the gun mantlet is surprisingly very troll and very strong, because it's angled back very aggressively, it becomes more sloped, and then this tank is a challenge to penetrate. Sticking this thing out in the open, in a brawl, it's just going to get nailed. And it's going to hurt an awful lot. And again, an example, I may not have penetrated, but I still did 121 damage. If I didn't penetrate in something else, it just would have bounced. So yeah, personally, when I play this thing, it's going to be, and it has to be, with that HESH. And I'm so glad it's back, because with the HESH, by the way, it pushes your DPM with the rammer up to 2,985. So we've then taken a tank with joint worst DPM up to one of the best. Yeah, I know in this sort of situation it only has 210mm of penetration. But like I said, there's only 10 less than some of the others. Which is why I'm so pleased to have that HESH back. And yeah, you're probably going to get called a gold noob using the ammo all the time, but to be honest, who cares? It's one of the only tanks I will fire a shed ton of HESH ammunition or premium ammo and thoroughly enjoy it, and not care if anyone calls me a gold noob. This thing needs that HESH ammunition, and with that HESH ammunition, I just think it's great. Obviously, it's a British icon, so I'm going to be a bit biased here anyway, which is why I was so... I'm not going to say distraught, because that sounds a little bit exaggerated. We'll go with the word I was a bit annoyed, miffed, agitated when this thing got hit quite hard previously. Because I really do like this tank. It's a British icon. I'm British. It's a tank you want to be good. And it's a very famous, well-known tank, the Centurions. On top of that, it's a damn good-looking tank. Nobody can dispute that. But regardless of all those things, even with the HESH, it's a challenging tank to play, I think. Which is why some people shine in it, some people suck in it. Or even those who shine can have really, really bad games in it. It is quite challenging. If you're not on a ridge using your gun depression, like I said, it's easy to penetrate. You can HESH this thing with the Death Star as an example from the front all day long. Unless he's hull down. Which is why I try to play this thing at medium range, using dunes as much as I can, using as much gun depression as I can. But I think the key thing to this is medium range. You have less probability of people rushing you and trying to out-DPM you. And you're not going to struggle hitting those shots. 0.29 accuracy in this thing. You're not going to struggle hitting things, providing you can take the time to aim at them. And that's obviously the key factor in making that HESH work. If you had bad accuracy, again as a comparative, let's compare the WZ-120. If you had an accuracy of 0.34 in this thing, you're not going to hit those HESH shots as reliably and as consistently. You're going to waste more credits. And it's just going to get annoying. But with 0.29, you're not going to struggle putting the HESH in the correct place. So again, drawing a comparative to the WZ-120, it's got 220mm of penetration, but the accuracy is significantly worse. It's not bad, but it's worse than this by a fair margin. And it can't hit those weak spots as reliably. Oh, and it only has 400 alpha a shot, not 440. You can also do this reliably. Point, shoot, don't even have to penetrate. It's a great tank. It's just a little bit challenging because you can't always reliably try and stick it on a ridge. But the reality is every single game you play, you need to be just looking for a ridge which is mid-range to where you expect things to pop up, and then work from there. I mean, there's another nice example on the HESH. A lot of people in this tank, I'm not saying all, a lot of you guys who watch this video will shoot HESH into the side of other medium tanks, but a lot won't because they're worried about hitting the tracks. But as long as you aim it up a little bit, you're not going to hit the tracks, and you're going to penetrate for significant damage. And at that point, if you go in shot for shot with something like a T-54, you are going to out-DPM it. Well, providing you can make it exactly shot for shot, which is why you're in cover. I say that now. What's the... No, T-54 with a RAM has got 2,944 DPM. This thing has 2,985. You're pushing it, but it's possible, in other words. But still, why would you risk it just sitting out taking shot for shot at each other when you can put this thing behind a ridge, use your gun depression, and if he does penetrate you, well, he's going to do 310 damage. If you penetrate him with that HESH, which is very, very feasible, you're going to do 440. Back end of a T-62A here. I'm going to save myself some money, and I'm going to miss. I actually thought I was going to hit that. Aside from trying to hit home the point about being on a ridge non-stop, using the gun depression, or just hiding the hull at all costs. Not tips, so to speak, but this thing's going to burn credits substantially. So what you want to do is try and use the cheap HESH where you can. It's not going to impact your gameplay, but it's going to save you some credits, because using the HESH, especially the premium HESH, as frequently as you want to in this thing, the reality is it's going to cost you, and you can end up in the red. Even more so if you are not running a premium account. So that's something you want to watch out for. The other thing then is, although this thing doesn't have the greatest frontal armor, you can side scrape in it surprisingly well. I mean, I should have side scraped there, but I didn't. Also save yourself some money as well. If they're lower and you can guarantee it with the APCR shot, put in the APCR shot. So, I'm going to try again side scraping up against this grill. You can see I've gone to the cheap HESH because there is no point in me using it. Did he just fire heat into the side of my track? So yeah, if you're side scraping one of these things and someone's firing heat at you, which, let's be fair, at the top tiers is very probable, you're not really going to have too much of an issue. Then again, you're not going to have too much of an issue if anything's firing heat at the side of you. But no, seriously, it's got side skirts on it, it's got not the greatest side armor, but you can side scrape it if you need to. But ideally, you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be in the situation where you're just popping your hull over a ridge. Turret, not hull. Don't pop your hull. The whole point is hiding your hull, not popping it. But yeah, you are going to burn credits in this thing if you're firing non-stop and then not penetrating. That's the key thing. If you're not penetrating with them, then you are going to lose a truck ton of credits. If you are penetrating, you potentially won't, especially if you're running a premium account. Example, I'm not running a premium account, but if you look at how much we would have earned with a premium account, we would have just made a profit. A minimal amount, but we would have made a profit. But to be honest, this thing, like the T49, I don't care if I make a profit or even burn credits in this thing. I play it because I enjoy playing it. I play it because of what it is. I play it because it's a challenging tank, but it's an interesting tank to play. And that was the niche. That was what made the British medium tanks special, is that HESH. If you can't use the HESH, then, well, you probably wouldn't enjoy the Centurion too much. If you don't know about the HESH and just say, no, it's HE, well, you're probably not going to enjoy it much either. You'd be surprised how many people do that, by the way, not realise what HESH is. Again, that's more of a general populace reference rather than you guys who actually go out your way and watch videos on the game. Obviously, the people who watch videos and go to that extent with the game are the type like us who tend to be more knowledgeable on the game. But yeah, you'll see a lot of these things never firing anything except normal ammo. But it is what makes it magical, is that HESH, so I'm genuinely very happy it's back. Now, you'll still see I carry more APCR than HESH. However, I will choose the HESH above all else, and I will usually try and default to that ammo. I'll see if I can penetrate using the HESH, and if I can't, then I will try and flick to the APCR. But ideally, you want to be firing the HESH. Firing the HESH means that you're going to do substantially more damage. And I know for a fact you can penetrate and hit the weak spots on that tortoise ridiculously easy with the HESH. With everything though, of course, there is a backhand to this. And the backhand is if you're facing something frontally which is very heavily armoured, you're all of a sudden in a situation where you may struggle to penetrate. That's the backhand of having the HESH gun. But to be honest, I'm quite happy to live with that sacrifice. But this is the reason some people prefer the heat gun. Yeah, with the standard HESH on that, you get 170mm of penetration, which is good, but it's not as good as the 210 on the premium one here. On the 210, you can use it a lot more reliably. But as an example, if you've got an E100 hull down in front of you, and you've got the heat gun, you're just going to shoot at the cheeks, and you don't even have to spend much time aiming, you just spam it at the cheeks. With the HESH gun, you can't really do that. You've either got to try and aim for the turret ring, or aim for the rangefinder bar on top of the turret. And in those circumstances, you will penetrate them both. But obviously it means more time aiming, and with the accuracy you can do it, but the more time aiming means you're potentially more exposed for a longer period of time. And again, this is a personal preference thing, and many people will disagree. But for me, I feel more confident in a Centurion 7.1 than I would in an FV4202. I just prefer the fact that I can sit on the ridgeline, or I can work a ridgeline, not just sit. Sit implies I'm camping. But I can work a ridgeline, and I can feel fairly confident in the turret on this thing. I don't feel as confident in a 4202. So, like I said, I'm very happy to have this back, because even in tier 9 games you can feel very confident in what you're doing. In an FV 4202, even though it's a great tank and it is good fun to play, you're going to get penetrated a lot more through the turret. But it's like I mentioned earlier with this thing, use the gun depression and the top of the gun mantlet on this thing, all of a sudden becomes very, very bouncy. If you don't and it's on the flat, you can penetrate it all day long, even with HESH actually. But you can't do that with the 4202, even if you're using the gun depression, you can kind of still penetrate it with the HESH. The FV4202 with HESH becomes very special for a different reason. 3,822 DPM with 210mm of penetration. It's good fun with that, and you can out DPM nearly every single medium tank all day long. So where I say I feel more confident in the Centurion 7.1, it's because of that turret, and because of that gun mantlet, I feel, like I said, just more confident in it. I feel like it's that little bit more reliable where you need it. Now that one, we fired lots and lots of HESH, but we did 5,000 damage and we made 13,000 credits, so we can't complain. All in all, not really a tank guide, more like a chat discussion on the HESH, and why I prefer it, and why I'm so happy it's back. That British niche, that very special thing about the British mediums, is back. I mean, 10 degrees of gun depression, a reliable turret, and 440 alpha. That's the sort of playstyle I love. It can be challenging, but it's also very, very rewarding. And that 440 alpha, well, HESH shots can go up over 500 alpha, and not to mention all the module damage you can do at the same time. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.